Hello, and welcome to the Artist Pivot Podcast. I'm your host, Ayana Major-Bay, and today we have a very special guest, the one and only Tara Tagliaferro. In this episode, we chat about all the ups and downs of working in theater. Think crazy performance schedules, dealing with vocal and physical exhaustion, and the financial roller coaster that comes with it all. Tara and I reflect on how our values have evolved over time, leading us to prioritize wellness and self-respect over the relentless hustle. We'll also discuss the impact of the pandemic on our identities and the importance of finding fulfillment outside of the stage. From creating virtual communities to exploring alternative sources of income, Tara sheds light on the resilience required to sustain a career in the arts. It's a candid and heartfelt conversation about the realities of the entertainment industry, the challenges of maintaining mental health, and the journey to finding balance and self-worth amidst the chaos. This episode promises to be a revealing and inspiring look at what it truly means to pivot in the world of performing arts. Let's get into it. Come take a listen and let your inner artist play. Creating your dreams step by step every day. If you're feeling lost and don't know what to do, always remember that you can pivot to the Artist Pivot. The Artist Pivot. Hello, and welcome to the Artist Pivot Podcast. I am your host, Ayana Major-Bay, a multi-hyphenated artist, and I am glad you are here. A couple housekeeping things before we get into the conversation. First, to keep up to date on all the things happening with the podcast, subscribe to the monthly newsletter at ayanabay.com/podcast. Second, to show your support for the show, you can get podcast merchandise at ayanabay.com/merch. And third, please make sure to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, and share this with at least one person. Enjoy the episode. We Audition is the video chat community where actors can audition, self-tape, rehearse, and get expert industry advice. Get instant self-tape readers through video chat, browse through the dedicated actor meditations, podcasts, and books, meet casting directors in the virtual green rooms, and also make money by becoming a reader for other actors. If you join We Audition and use code PIVOT, you will receive a 25% discount on your membership. Link in the show notes. All right, y'all. So today on the podcast, I am elated to say that joining me is Tara Tagliaferro. And y'all, Tara and I go way back.
Yes, we do.
Way back to the days of Montclair State University.
That is right.
And this podcast episode is happening because we've been leaving each other voice memos back and forth for the last couple of weeks that have been their own mini podcast episodes.
So good.
And so we
cathartic.
were like, why don't we actually record an episode so people could also hear what we've been voice memoing each other? So Tara, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here because number one, haven't been on a podcast, I don't think, of a friend's, like maybe ever. And also like not talking about the Land of Oz because that's where I podcast. So this is a refresher. Yeah. I'm so overjoyed to be here. Thank you for having me on.
Yes, of course. I'm excited to have you. So I have two questions to start. Yeah. The first one, how are your hydration levels today? Have you had enough water?
Oh.
And number two, if I were to text you and be like, Tara, how you doing? How's your day going? How you feeling? But you could only respond in emojis only. What would you text me?
You're smart. Okay. Well, first I'll do the text. I always text the little one eye up, one eye down.
Yeah. Yes.
Loopy.
Yes.
I'm always doing loopy.
Okay.
Especially in the morning.
Yeah.
So I would text you that.
Mm-hmm.
And like, like that little loopy guy is still smiling, like just kind of like riding chaos.
Yes.
So that's where I'm always at. Mm-hmm. And am I hydrated? I think I've had maybe a little more coffee Then I've had water this
Mm-hmm.
morning, and you will hear that probably in my voice. And I was like, where is my water cup right now? I don't even see it. So I feel called out on my hydration, but gratefully
Mm-hmm,
so.
mm-hmm. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you, Mom. Thanks, Mom.
You're welcome. Listen, I'm trying my best. I just opened a new bottle of this alkaline water and
Yes.
electrolyte water from Trader Joe's. So here we go.
TJ's is
TJ's,
my heart and
they
soul.
really
Today's
are.
my TJ's day.
Yes.
Mondays are for
Love it. Love it.
this is when I restock. I love it.
Yeah, so I'm trying to get my hydration in because I definitely did have a full cup of coffee this morning. And I'm like, now I need to drink water. Now it's water for the rest of the day, Ayana.
Yeah. Correct. Water for the rest of the day. That's kind of how I roll too.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand. All right, y'all. Tara. Ooh, Tara's here, y'all. We I'm like, where should I start? Like reflecting on those voice memos we sent. I'm like, oh, where should we start?
Anywhere you want, baby.
Anywhere I want. Okay. So here we go. Let's start with, the industry, the entertainment industry, if you will, where it is right now in 2024. And the fact that we both have decided that we need to move differently in said industry because of taking care of ourselves as human beings first, and that our wellness needs to take a priority over, in essence, the hustle and grind culture of the arts. I mean, it's hustle and grind culture of anything, but the hustle and grind culture of the arts especially. And and also talking about like our identity being wrapped up in shows and not being in a show and trying to live your life. So my first question, so that I don't ramble, y'all, my first question to you would be like, how did you get to the point where you decided, yeah, I've had enough. I got to make a change?
Oh, great question. Okay, so let me start here. So I want to say, and just to give like a little background of like what I primarily do, I was pretty fortunate pre-pandemic to shuffle from like regional theater show to national tour and back. Works a little bit in the city. I did an off-Broadway run for almost a full year. So like pretty consistently working with teaching gigs, with coaching gigs, other things all intertwined to keep myself afloat. But also this is like all under the age of 31. Is that how old I was when the pandemic started? 32. And, still very much like I was in that mentality of go-getter, grind, like very much there. And like, I did a lot of coaching of young artists, also artists in the industry, had a lot of different offerings I did as a coach. And one of the things I would help like with pre-pandemic was what I like to call seasoning the shit sandwich of our industry. And I'm taking that term from Big Magic, which is Elizabeth Gilbert's book, all on like how to lead a creative life. And she basically says that like every art form in the industry, especially with that art form, has a shit sandwich you have to learn how to swallow. So I was like, I want to become the seasoner for the shit sandwich for artists, actors, primarily hustling after musical theater, because it is really, really hard. So how do we reframe? How do we keep going? Okay, so then the pandemic hits and I'm realizing like, this whole shit sandwich metaphor really gets like what's a good word to use? Like it just falls down. Like it's like the curtain on it, like the whole like metaphorical magical language I was using just kind of fell apart, right? Like I was seeing the industry for what it was, and just like the inequities, the working conditions, the mental toll this career takes, the physical toll, like all of it. And just how hard it is. And also like my age was coming in as well. Like, I was newly married right when the pandemic hit and like wanting to start a family, and like it almost felt impossible to have those two dreams happening, right? So I'm like holding those two dreams. I had also had a previous experience right before the pandemic. I was involved in an off-Broadway show, and the working conditions, the backstage was just so toxic. And I had gone to the union for help and guidance and care. And it just, nothing really happened. So I'd already had a very disenchanting, disappointing experience. as a working actor in a job that should have been like, like I was working in the city, that like excitement and like performing for celebrities, like almost every other performance, like, really cool stuff happening, but I was miserable. And a lot of it had to do with like the backstage culture of this one particular show, and nothing got addressed with it. I felt so inferior in the process. So that was also like, I had that on me too.
Yeah.
But I really just started to see this career as like a casino, in two big ways. Like so much is luck. So much is luck. And I can recall my own instances of it, like getting an audition from a Sarah Bareilles concert. Like what? Like I didn't go to the Sarah Bareilles concert to get an audition.
Right.
But I did, and it got me a job, like crazy stuff like that. And I think so many actors have stories like that. Like I just bumped into this person on the street and then they asked me, right? Like it happens, and it's a magical part of it. Like the chaos is also magical. And then it's the money element, like how much money you shell out into this. Like casinos survive on people just giving up money. And that's how this industry survives. Every actor you meet is probably a teacher too, because they have to pay bills. And that's where I really, Anna, that's where I really had to have a moment. Like I was like, I can't teach this anymore and set kids up into this career that really doesn't take care of you when the world falls apart. And it really does feel like there's a hierarchy in this system. And, like I was coming into a place where I just couldn't afford to be at the upkeep level that I wanted to be at too, which is like, when you really break it down, if you're in voice lessons, if you're in acting classes, if you're in dance classes, you are probably shelling out like consistently. I'm just going to say like maybe 3 dance classes. That's like $70. A voice lesson, a voice coaching, that's probably gonna be about $300. You're around $400, $500 easy if you are like in the upkeep, right? And I was never really quite at that, but there'd be some weeks I would swing to that and it was killing me. And like that, you can't just put the smile on and keep going. Like it just, the smile started to wear, all of that. And so I like I said, I made most of my living from musical theater and teaching. And I was like, I can't teach this anymore. Like I need a moment. So I found myself accidentally in the chess tutoring world, like still teaching because I am a good educator and I love working with kids, but just something completely different. And also like chess is a game that is just known. Like it's known. Like so much in our industry is not known. It just is so much. It really is like you have to feed yourself a lot of faith and you've got to stay in gratitude land, because especially now, we also have our little digital worlds that show us all the people working at all the times that we can go into compare despair mode with all the time.
Ooh.
It's hard. It's so hard. And like, I fall completely like, I don't want to say victim. That feels like a little too much, but I fall completely into that too. Like I have my down swings with that as well. So I had to take that break in the pandemic and also just like reassess, like there's so many other things you're really good at. And like, I want to have stability, and this career hasn't ever really been stable. Like I've had really excellent opportunities, but it's been a roller coaster financially. And also, just like when's the next gig going to come is never quite something I can predict. So the casino just started to feel like, when you get to Vegas, I think you see like all the bright lights and like, wow, this is so exciting. And I just felt like I came to Atlantic City instead. It's just like, oh, this is like a little busted. Like, oh, no, the lights are up in the casino. Like that's totally the sunlight's trickling in. It just kind of felt like that. And I really don't think college programs, I mean, ours, I don't think prepared us for what it was going to take to actually stay in this industry. And I don't know if it's their fault. The industry has shifted so much too. In the time we graduated, like I swear to you, when we started school, black and white headshots were a thing, and then that was not the thing anymore.
They were when we started. And by the time we graduated, you had to be in color.
Yes. And then like YouTube, not a thing, then it was a thing. Like that was just starting. And like there was no awareness or like any like, teach from a teaching standpoint of like, oh, like let's teach the kids to be involved with this stuff, because it wasn't happening yet. And also I'm just so shook always. Where is like nutrition wellness classes? Like you are your instrument. How is that not priority in these programs? Like we didn't have any of that. We actually probably had the other way around of like, lose weight and like not being told how to lose the weight. Like we got that kind of a, treatment. I definitely did. I'll speak on my experience. I was told to
Mhm.
lose weight in college and starve myself. And like that
Mm.
was like a whole other thing. I want to put a little trigger warning for anyone who also has dealt with that. So I
Yeah.
definitely had that in college too. Like it's just crazy to think about. I feel like, and not to like take it out on our school of Montclair,
Mhm.
because I also had such a great experience there. I just don't feel like I was adequately prepared for what it takes to do this industry. Um, and maybe it was that, and like I'm getting older, my values are shifting, and like I just want
Yeah.
to enjoy waking up in the morning and not feeling like I have 13 things I need to accomplish.
Mm.
I kind of want my
Mm.
ambitions to make space for joy more.
Yeah.
And it's hard to have both sometimes, I feel like, because ambitions for me also is tied to anxiety sometimes. And that's just a me thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I whirled around a bit and a bunch, but I'll just stop there. If you want to chat on anything more specifically, open
Yeah.
to any questions.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I'm gonna go in a couple different directions, but first to say that like, we can hold space for two things to be true at the same time. That
Yes,
school was an amazing experience. Like
it
I cherish
was.
the days at Montclair State
I
University
know
and the
you.
people that I met. I know you,
Yes.
but I can also hold space for the truth of like I wasn't fully prepared for the career. I was
No,
prepared to walk into the room, sing my best 32 bars,
if that.
dance my if that, because sometimes it's 16 bars or sometimes it was 8, and I was like, that's
Yeah.
disrespectful. My 37-year-old Ayana will never accept that. 22-year-old Ayana unfortunately did. However, right, my values have now shifted. But I was taught to walk into a room, do my best, and someone's going to hire me. That's what I was taught.
Right.
That
Someone
that
out
is
there.
it. Somebody out there.
Right.
So I think we can hold those two things to be true at the same time. Yes, we had an amazing experience with the people and the community of the theater department, but then also we weren't fully prepared for an actual career and what it
Like
looks like,
what it takes to
what it
sustain.
takes to
Yes.
sustain yourself
Yes.
in the arts.
Well, I'm just going to say this, and I could be completely wrong too. Like I'm
Mhm.
so open for this, but especially now, because I have gotten back into working with young kids
Mhm.
pursuing this. Like I have
Mhm.
dipped and dabbled back in.
Yeah.
And I always want to come in with like the right tools, encouragement, but I don't want to scare them, but I also don't want to hide things from them. So it's like a
Right.
nice balance, right? I like, we have this whole TikTok and Instagram world of like theater artists, influencers who like
Yeah.
showcase their days, what it looks like to go to Pearl and Ripley Greer, our audition hubs, what it looks like to be cut, like, which is beautiful. And also, though, like, I'm inventing stories in my brain based off of what these kids are sharing of what it actually takes to do this because I don't know if you feel this way, Anna. I see
Mhm.
unlimited money going into these kids' careers, like a lot of them coming out, and I'm like, is this industry only for kids who come from privilege now, too? I think it always has
Mhm.
been a little bit of
Privilege.
that,
Yeah.
but it feels even harder now because like I'm holding a mic in my hand. Like I paid for this mic. We
Yeah.
now have all the digital components of doing self tapes from home, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
And all that stuff, because that's a whole new way we have shifted in the pandemic too. Like the
Yes.
amount of times I actually go into an audition room now are so it's like rare. I'm like,
Y
wow, I made it. Like you have to
Yeah.
get through the self tape endless sea to get
Yeah.
there, right? Um, so like there's just so many more demands on us financially than there even
Mhm.
were before. There was
Mhm.
already a ton of demands on us before. And what I see is like people pursuing this looking phenomenal, looking like they got their hair done, looking like
Yeah.
they get their nails done, and still somehow affording that voice lesson. And I'm like, how? What do you
Mhm.
do? What's your day job? Like,
Mhm.
it's not adding up when I do the math and like peel
The math
back.
ain't mathin'. The
No,
math
I'm
ain't
like,
mathin'.
can we discuss this? Like, I don't under
Yes.
like the industry at large. Is this a rich kid's playground now? And
Yes.
like, I'm an only child, and that is the main
Mhm.
reason why I was allowed to major in this because my
Mhm.
family could help me out.
Mhm.
If I
Mhm.
didn't have their help, I don't think I could do this.
Oh, same. I'm in the same ballpark. Like, yeah, I'm not an only child, I'm an older sister, actually, but it was one of those, like, you weren't gonna stop me. I am very much like,
You're so
my
cute.
my Aries spirit came through and was like, "But I'm doing musical theater, so I don't you gonna have
You
to get on the
told.
train, or you gonna get left at the
See,
station.
I
Like
was like the opposite.
I don't know what you want me to say to you, but I'm finna go to musical
I'm
theater.
gonna
And I
figure it
did.
out.
I did. And of
Yeah,
course, my parents did get on the train when they realized, oh, she's actually really good. Oh, she's booking work. Oh, they did. But also, I had the privilege of my parents being able to help me. Like, I did my best. I
me
worked
too.
all of my jobs,
Yes.
catering and
And
all
this
these
is
different
with
things.
working a million
This is
jobs.
with
Like,
working a million
it's
jobs,
not
but I
like I
would come up
sat
short.
around. Yes, like
Right,
I come
right.
up short. Yes.
But they always knew I would come to them if I came up short. So it wasn't like you said, just sitting around. It was,
No.
mommy, okay, like I've done everything I could this month. Like she's like, okay, how much you need? But also I was able to call them. And that's how I've gotten to where like I like to this day I'm so thankful. But
Same.
also like my aunt and uncle let me live in their house rent free. Like you know what I'm like I had
Right.
family who was like, we may not be able to pay your bills, but baby, you can live here. My
Right.
best friend's mom would come on over if you need a plate. If you didn't buy groceries, I
I
could cook for you.
relied on this, like
Yes.
relied on it when I was living in Philly because I started my career in Philadelphia. I
Yeah.
would come in, talk about something like I couldn't do now. I
Mm-hmm.
had days where I did that mega bus trip 2 to 3 times because I would get a call back and have to come home and work and then go back to the callback.
Oh
Like
my gosh.
that kind of crazy. Like
Yeah.
literally that kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Um, and I did it. Like I just
Yeah.
was like, taking that like Chinatown bus for like a couple bucks or like trying to get the mega bus for a buck, like just making it work. But the
Yeah.
amount of couches I crashed on for free, like
Yeah.
just I don't know what I would have done without any of that too. Like just the support in general. So I'm like, if you're a young person and you do not have any support, I really don't think you can do this. I don't mean to
Yeah.
sound discouraging. Like it already is like everyone is somewhat talented. I think that comes
Mm-hmm.
into this. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
everyone has their little things they got to work on, right?
Yeah.
But
Yes.
everyone is like, there's a baseline of like,
Talent.
wow,
Yeah.
that is the best voice I've ever heard. Like you have like a reaction to like everyone like in this industry. Um, but like that support factor is not going to be everybody's, I think,
Everybody's story.
bogey.
And yeah, and that's the thing. It's yeah, how do you get the younger generation to understand that? Like you said, without I don't want to disparage anybody's dreams. Like not at all. If you
No.
go after it, yes, but it's the
Yes. But this is
reality
the
of
reality of it too.
you need to have some type of support. Some like whether it's someone helping you pay your rent, whether it's you
Finding a
can call
housing
finding
program, something.
yes, yes, or like eh, going in knowing that I'm going to need support because if I'm honest, and they started my rose colored glasses started to come off before the pandemic.
Yeah,
But
same.
there was a point, especially I would say maybe the first 5 years out of school, I had on the rose colored glasses of like, but once I booked that Broadway
Yeah,
show,
me too.
oh, it's gonna be go. Like I'm gonna do like, and then as time progresses, you're like, oh, that's not how this works. I
Yeah,
have to
even my
keep
friends,
auditioning.
right, even my friends who have booked Broadway shows, like
Yeah,
they're kind of in the same boat I am. Like
yeah,
now, like we're up against each other for the same things or going in for similar things.
yeah.
Um, yes, completely. Like I really thought that like, like everything will take care of itself,
Hmm.
which is both beautiful because you're just like, yes, like you're in this like stride of just like, I've got this, but
Hmm.
also it's a little ignorant because you're
Hmm.
ignoring like I said, like I would see my bank account and be like, where did that money go? And be like, oh yeah, that step stance class, that voice coaching you got, oh, you didn't make
Hmm.
enough to support that this week. And
Hmm.
that would be like a brutal thing. And like, you know what? I think like in my 20s, maybe I would be like a little bit more like, okay, I can fix this. But now it's like, I have to fix this.
Yeah.
I'm like in my mid 30s. This cannot be how I live anymore. It just doesn't feel
Hmm.
good. I don't want to be asking anyone for help anymore. Like I want to have my own,
Hmm.
nest egg that I feel really, really good about. And I think there are ways. Like I really do. I do think the multi hyphenate way of doing this is
Hmm.
how to do this. And I think it
Hmm.
doesn't have to even be something in the arts. Like I do think a lot
Yeah.
of people find an avenue down like you do with like
Hmm.
voiceover work and
Hmm.
audiobook work and commercials. Like, yes, that's all there. But if you're someone like me who's a little bit maybe more like on the introverted path, I think there's also things for you too.
Yeah.
And I think it's really cool to see more and more people owning the ands of what they do. And even if they're
Yeah.
disconnected a little bit, like owning that. And this is something we were talking about on Voice Memo This is something I used to talk about a lot when I was teaching, and I still think it rings and holds true.
Yeah.
When I talk to kids and also like professionals about like audition work and like what the goal is, I was like, you have to be Disneyland in the audition room and Disneyland in this career. And they'd be like, what do you mean? I was like, let me break this down. So like I've grown up going to Six Flags Jersey, which, you
Yes.
know, like Six Flags Jersey is a time, but like let's talk about like the swamp ass you experience on those lines is unlike any other place in the world. The lines are long. There's nothing to distract you on the lines. The only thing they'll show you is maybe like an $8 bottle of water. And you're like, oh my God, I'm so thirsty. I think I need that. You're watching eighth graders make out in front of you. It's kind of miserable, right?
Yes.
So Six Flags is not the like choice that you know, if you're going to pick, probably you're going to pick like something like Harry Potter World and like Disney. You're going to pick that because they take those line experiences and they distract you and they fill it with almost the same magic that they do on the ride. They put it into those lines. And I always took that as like, well, I have to do that for my career. Like I can't just
Yes.
be online and be waiting and miserable like I am at Six Flags. I need to find all the magic that's in the waiting and what else I can be doing. Like, you know, when you're on a contract, you miss weddings, you
Yeah.
miss things, you miss life events. Like, I really made that be priority. Like, coming into the pandemic, I was starting to do that more, being like, I will turn down gigs if they will not let me out for one day to
Yep.
see one of my people get married. Like,
Same.
please, I can't do this anymore. It was killing friendships for me. I was like, I can't do it anymore. So I was in that mindset already. Um, and then like also with this whole metaphor in the audition room too, like Six Flags just kind of like says like, oh yeah, we have like the tallest roller coasters. Yeah, they're hitting the notes, right? Like they're getting the notes up there. But like Disneyland tells a story. And that's always what I focus on when I coach younger people and even professionals in the auditioning room. I like kind of say screw the voice when they work with me. I'm like, we're just gonna let that go for a moment and just really root into the story. And oftentimes the voice only soars when the story is clearer because you're not
Yeah.
thinking about, you know, all the pyrotechnics that you want to do like a Six Flags park is, right? Like they're thinking
Yeah.
about all the technical things and all the like
To
biggest,
distract you from the
largest,
misery.
right? Like
Yeah.
those kinds of things, like all the
Yes.
high notes, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, Disneyland's not really thinking about the high notes. None of their roller coasters are even that high, but they have a story,
Yeah.
like, you know, that goes with it. And I think
Yeah.
those two things really still help me out, like telling a story, being a service of a story as an artist, that kind of helps diminish my anxiety and like, oh my God, I need this job because I need to eat, all those kinds of things that can come up. And also the fact that the wait, I don't lose value as a human when I'm in the wait. Like
Yes.
that was the hard thing for me to come to and still is sometimes, you know, when you go home for a holiday. Even the other day, I was at the Wiz on Broadway and the woman next to me was like, you have to be an actor. I just could feel your energy. And I was like, oh yeah, I do act. And she's like, what are you in? I felt that an instant, like, you know, like come up.
Yes.
I was like, well, I was like, at the moment, I am enjoying going to see theater. I was in a show with a person you're going to see on the stage in a second, you know, just trying to like stifle that feeling that comes up of
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm not worth anything to you because I'm not in a show. Why does
Oof.
that happen?
I don't know. I don't know, Tara.
I
I
don't think they're
don't
thinking that. I don't think
know.
she's thinking that. This stranger woman who is just trying to be kind and getting to
Right.
know me, I don't think she was going, her worth is in whatever show she's doing. Like she wasn't doing that. I was.
Yeah.
So it is an interesting thing, like just making the wait, making the time we spend when we're not on the ride of a show be so valuable
Yes.
to
Yes.
ourselves, our mental health, like doing the things that reset us. It is the hardest, I think, time to navigate. And I feel like I've been in this like wait, right? Quote
Mhm.
unquote wait since the
Mhm.
pandemic has hit. Like I've gotten to work a couple times, but very small, short contracts, very enjoyable. One of them I broke my wrist. That's a whole other story. But the other one, healing, cathartic, all the good things that you hope, you know, to be in a theater experience.
Yeah.
But, you know, like I feel like I've been more in the like, how do I still make my life feel so beautiful without any of these identity trophies? Right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
And it's hard. I don't
it's
know.
hard, but that's kind of the mission in essence.
Yes.
Like, how do you make your life this beautiful thing that when you want to allow it, theater can be a part of it. But if you're not
Yeah.
in a show, it's still beautiful. It's still fulfilling. It's still, but this is my life and I love it. And right, how do we take away the identity piece and also
Yeah.
not feeling like, oh well, I'm not in a show right now. So like, oh,
Like
I kind of feel
sadness. Yeah, like we're
like
both kind of
yeah.
like getting small in our bodies when we say
You're
that.
like,
Yeah.
no, I no, take up space. But it's
Yeah.
like, I mean, I think it's there are so many things that compound on top of that because it's like,
You're right.
okay, no, you shouldn't necessarily be waiting for someone all the time to say yes to you. You know what I'm saying? Like we have to
Right.
take our yes back from other
Love that.
people. We have to take our yes back. But with that, saying yes to yourself is great, but the reality is who's gonna pay for me to produce my own show? If I'm already struggling to try to keep myself afloat with
Yeah.
just being a human, voice lessons, dance classes. Oh yes, I would actually like to go out to dinner with a friend because they're my
Yeah,
friend and I
right.
want like,
Right. We're not
but
even
then
talking social
we're
life.
not
We
even
haven't
talking, oh,
even
we
put a
haven't even
price on
yeah, we
social
haven't
life.
even put the price on
We live
social
in New York
life.
City. We're like, we're in and out of this concrete jungle that has only gone up in price, only
Yes.
gone up since I've
Yes.
moved here. It's impossible to even see a show now without like shelling out like anywhere. I think if you're doing Rush,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like anywhere from like 45 to 150 now.
Right, for Rush. But when we were in college, child, Rush ticket, let me go get this $25
25.
Rush ticket.
Yeah.
What?
Rush is still like
No.
45 to like 60. Like that's kind
Yeah.
of the top. But like, what if you just really want to see the show and you're like, okay, let me get a normal ticket? It's like
Yeah.
$150 is kind of like the average now, which is insane.
It's insane. But like, so how, so it's like, right. So the question is, how do you, for your life, go, okay, how can I afford to be a human, but also if I'm not waiting for someone to cast me, how do I
Like, how
produce
do
my
I,
own show? How do I do
yes,
how like all of this revolves around the currency we made up, which also
right,
gets me sometimes. Like I literally
right.
sit here and go, but we made this up.
I
Like
know,
it's literal just green coupons. Like we cut down trees
I
and color
know,
them green and like say that this means something. Like it's made up.
I know. It always baffles me when they're like, the government is going to be bankrupt. I'm like, can't they just print more?
Can't they just, I'm like, they just need to print more money. Isn't
I mean,
that
that
what I'm
sounds
like,
very
what?
basic, but it's like, it is all, what is the word? Um, oh, the word is escaping me, but it's an A word. It's escaping me.
Yeah.
It's yeah, it's all very like oh, the word is escaping me. There's a word that captures this and I can't quite think of it.
Yeah.
Um, but
Yeah.
it's we made it up.
We
That's at the end of the day, we made it up.
the end of the day, we made it up. We made it up. And I think also the pandemic itself, like, I know we're 4 years removed, but it's still one of those things that's like, wait a minute, that
We didn't have an
happened.
official out either. Like it just kind of
We,
all
right. It just kind of,
crumbled
ugh.
in little
and then,
yeah.
and then like it crumbled and now people are racing back. And then we had a SAG had a strike. And then
Yeah,
like there
the
has been
hiccups.
so much happening in the last 4 years that it's like, as an artist, taking care of your health and wellness is the first thing. And how to, like, I think for a lot of like, I had a conversation with someone way back, like season one, and it was, who are we now without the theater, without like, who are
Right.
we now as human beings without the titles, without the jobs? And I
Yeah.
think a lot of us in the pandemic were like, wait a minute, I don't know the answer to that question. And
Yeah.
so, speaking from my own experience, that's what I've been trying to discover. And also, you hit on the point of like, but I also want to be around for my family. I couldn't tell you the what 16 years before the pandemic, how many weddings, funerals, baby
Yes.
showers, just a plain old barbecue on a Saturday that I missed that my like
Right.
sister shows me pictures from. So I'm like, oh, I wish I was there because it's like this industry isn't loyal. My family has been loyal to me and my friends,
I
but
know it
this
just comes
industry
with the
hasn't.
territory. Yep.
But you're like, oh, does it come? Like, it's like we keep saying it comes with the territory, but
I
like, yeah,
know.
no, I want to change the territory though.
I know. I hear you. I'm so with you on all of this. And like, I really think what is so going back to what you were talking about, like in the pandemic, like, who am I? Just like
Mhm.
answering that question. I think I like came to because when I in the pandemic, like gathering people together actually virtually and
Mhm.
like doing circle work, which I was certified in and like have um done since prior pandemic, which is just like organized community sharing and ways
Mhm.
to feel seen and heard in a safe space, right? I was
Yeah.
doing that priority. Like that was my like essential work.
Yeah.
Sisterhood and community was my essential work in the pandemic. And I was like, who am I in this? Cause like,
Mhm.
like what am I doing? I don't even know what this work is really called. And
Yeah.
like, it's not like some fancy title, like that doesn't have the Broadway with it. But I was like, I think you're somebody who's trying to listen to other people right now.
Yeah.
And that's it. Like you're trying to listen and understand. Can that be your identity?
Mhm.
Like someone who listens and like is trying to also like I think, I get the most shivers in life when like, I always use an Oz metaphor where like yellow brick roads cross and it feels like for a reason.
Yeah.
You're like, "Wait, like you too?" And like you have those moments of like just synchronicity. Like that gets me so excited.
Mhm.
Um, like what if it's about those things? Like those little things that just
Yeah.
take a day and like add a little spark to it. But what you going back also to what you were saying too, like, yeah, I still do it to this day over like, well, like, I guess I'm up for something right now that I'm like,
Mhm.
well, if I do get this, like, I have a wedding that I really need to be at. I hope that they'll allow me to go.
Mhm.
I already am doing, they're probably not going to. So I'm probably gonna have to tell my friend that, like, I can't be there. Like, I'm already playing that
Bingo.
story through my brain because it's so
Mhm.
ingrained, you
Mhm.
know?
Mhm. And that's that's the ugly side. Is that the word I wanna use? Yeah, the ugly maybe I don't know if
Like
that's the word I wanna use.
harsh. Yeah,
The
like it's a
harsh yeah, like that's
harsh.
the
It's
harsh
just like,
side of this industry because I feel like and not saying that people in under other industries don't have to sacrifice, not saying that. But what I'm saying is I feel
no.
like we need to sacrifice a little bit more in this industry when it
Well,
comes to those like, well, I can't be at your wedding. I'm so sorry. Like someone can just take off. All right, I already took off
right,
my days. Like I'm gonna be there. And we're like,
right,
but I booked something and I really like would like to take this and also I need it. So like now I
right.
can't be there.
Well, we don't get paid for any kind of the auditioning
Oh,
time, right? Like that's
yeah,
the big thing. Like
yeah.
professional athletes, like they can
They get
they get paid to strike out. Like
yes.
if we want to go into that as a metaphor, like they get paid to fail. We don't get paid to fail. Like so much is riding on us making things happen, right?
Yeah.
So that's the main difference is that we do not have any kind of like financial support around us not working in the industry. So it's a lot
Mhm.
of survival stitching, right? Like
Mhm.
stitching together gigs and trying to make
Mhm.
that work.
Mhm.
And I don't really know how to fix that at all. That's just, it's an oversaturated industry. But that's what I think we were getting into too, the reality. Okay, so I'm going to be so honest. The last two jobs I worked
Mhm.
post pandemic, like prior to the pandemic, I was probably like most of the gigs I was booking were somewhere over 1,000 a week,
Mhm.
maybe just under. This
Mhm.
is also like that's not big money. That's like what you need
That's right, right, right.
right, like to eat, to survive in this city.
Mhm.
Like that's kind of what you need, right? To be okay. To just be a
Mhm.
baseline okay.
Mhm.
Um, my first job back, $600 a week, no negotiations.
What?
Yeah. The next job after that, a little bit better, just under 1,000. Again, like think we just talked about what it costs to upkeep. And this is the paychecks too that regional theaters in the union are offering, right?
And you're not
And
even getting that full check because after taxes, after union dues,
yeah,
after your agent
100.
fees, like
You're not
what?
getting that full check nowhere near. It's like usually 200 to $300 less. So
Yes.
that's the whole thing too that I'm like, no one talks about this. Like the really only in musical theater, the only gigs that kind of pay you a lifestyle are like if bless you got a production contract, but those are
Mhm.
far and few between. Those are Broadway shows and a couple national tours. Most
Mhm.
national tours now are operating on some CETA agreement that is
Yeah.
under what it should be. But again, like the producers, like I don't even know from like what the decisions have been. The actors always get sliced the
Mhm.
most, right? Like
Mhm.
the costs, and because there's so many of us, and they just
Yeah.
simply can.
Yeah.
That's the hardest part of all of this is they simply can. There's too many people who will say yes.
Right.
Um, and
Right.
that's the hard, I think, reality of it. But like in cruise ships, I will give it to cruise ships. You can make a
Mhm.
nice solid chunk of change on a cruise ship,
Oh,
but everything
absolutely.
else is not really livable.
Yeah. No,
Not for
it's not.
like, I don't know, like
Not for
I
having a life that
no,
you enjoy.
Yeah. And like, even just things like, my husband and I have been through fertility things in the
Mhm.
more recent, like we are getting presented all the prices and all the different things. And I'm like, well, we can never do IVF because that is just extraordinarily too much money that will not be in our future. We just can't afford it. Like,
Mhm.
it's even things like that. It's like, I can't, with where we're at right now, I can't afford to even like look at certain things as alternatives because it's just like not what the money I make.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
so that's, I think, like something if I'm talking to college age kids, like I want to make sure they understand that, like
Yeah.
finding something like, especially now in tech, because you
Mhm.
can do it from home. That's like
Mhm.
mindless even to you. Like it's just kind of like plugging in and getting some stuff done, but it has the money, they will pay you decently is good
Yes.
because you want that
Yes.
money. You want to have the things that you can also take with you on the road. Like while I was doing my 2 out of town contracts, uh, post pandemic, I was tutoring while I
Mhm.
was there.
Yeah.
And I was able to kind of make it work. Like
Make
I'm always like, I have to be at a lure A contract. Like that's where I need to be.
that's
Like
right.
in life, I need to be at a lure A is usually around like 1,000 something dollars a week. Like I just
Mhm.
have to be in the thousands, please, dear Lord. Like that is me
Mhm.
just getting by, right?
Yeah.
So that's how I was making those contracts even work,
Yeah. Yeah.
just working another job at the same time while doing I think we only had 6 shows a week, which feels like
Mhm.
heaven. I will say,
Mhm.
gosh, I wish that was just the norm.
That
And
sounds
then 8,
amazing.
I had 7, I think, for the other. Oh my
Yeah.
God, I can't even tell you, 6 and 7 show weeks,
Mm.
I didn't have any issues
Mm.
vocally, nothing, because it really does feel like enough time to recover and get the next show up. Like it doesn't feel
Yes.
like you have to ever push the guns. I'm like, we should really be talking about this more because it is like, oh my God, I felt so good. I would feel good on my Sunday night show.
Right. Because you had 2 days off. Like that always got me of like, why do I not get 2 days off? Why
Never.
do I
It's
need
so
to do
rare.
8 shows a week? Nobody's coming to this Tuesday evening show. Nobody is here. Nobody is here. Why are we need to have Monday and Tuesday off. I'll
I
see
don't
you again on
know. It's
Wednesday.
money. Even if I'm like, if you need to make your money, if you make here's what I say. Go ahead, kill the schedule, make a million shows a week. Have a couple companies then of
Yeah,
backstage artists and onstage artists.
correct.
And then you run your ship as tight as you want it.
Correct.
Um like, is that too wrong to have people sharing the role more? Like, is
I
that a
don't think
wrong
so.
thing
Cast
to
A and Cast B.
like that's exciting. I actually think that'll make people come back
Mhm.
to see
Mhm.
the 2 different, like, I don't know. I think that's maybe a little too far stretching because it's just hasn't really been done before.
Yeah.
But I'm like, if that's what you want, if you wanna have this show running all the time to make as much money as you want, then have more people. Don't
Mhm.
keep adding shows to the schedule.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Ooh, Tara.
But, I mean, I've worked 9 show weeks. I've worked a 10 show week. I've done
So have
it.
I. When I was non-union, I did, and
Oh,
I
same.
can't believe, like, thank you, Lord, I survived. That my vocal
Yeah,
cords still work now. Like,
same. We did on Sister Act. I
mm,
was on that non-union national tour of Sister Act. We had a week that was in 8 days, we did 14 shows. It
what?
was like all double show days. I remember at the end of it, like
What?
I have a visceral memory of being like, I'm opening my mouth. I don't feel anything, but sound is coming out. Like it was like I was like numb at the end of it.
Oh
Sound
my
was still coming out. I was just
gosh.
like, I am tired. Like that's like a very you've done Sister Act. It's like
Mhm.
one of the hardest scores to sing. It's like it sits in a place
Yes.
that needs to be bright and rested. And man,
Jeez. Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
that tour was we had some weeks on that tour, but we were all young and
Yeah,
like,
mhm.
like it relies on that kind of a thing.
Mhm. Mhm. I
Yeah.
think it relies on, and this is on, and okay, let me say it from my experience. I can't speak for anybody else. But those type of things, like doing the 9 and 10 shows, relies on, I think, lack mindset that we have when we're younger. I think it
Yeah.
relies on, well, I just got to do it because maybe this will be the opportunity that gets me to something else. Or it's relying on our in essence desperation for
Yeah.
the job and to kind of take what the job gives us. Even though I'm like, this is very disrespectful, but I guess if I have to do it, I guess I'll do it. But now as we've been navigating this career for all these years, our values have changed because we now respect ourselves. I respect myself enough to know I'm not doing a 10-show week. So if that's what you're going to offer, please go find somebody else.
And I
Actually,
can't do
I
it.
wish you wouldn't find somebody else because nobody should be doing a 10-show week.
I know.
However,
They're going to be
my
there.
values have changed. I'm not doing that anymore. I respect myself enough to know I'm not doing. No, you cannot email me 2 days before and expect me to learn these 5 songs and 7 sides in this audition
We're not
packet.
even talking
I
about
do
the
not
self
have that
tapes
time.
at all.
I'm not doing that. You should have given me a week.
I hear you. That's been also something that like is not regulated yet, is the fact that we've switched to self tapes. I have gotten 4 minutes of material to put up on tape in one take.
Yep.
I'm like, that is too much. Like, that is
You
asking
know
me
from
to
the
do
first 30
so
seconds
much
whether you like it or
labor.
not.
Yes. And like,
Yes.
fine, I'll do this whole packet for you in the room, but like on the tape, could you give me something that like I could really sink my teeth in instead of me trying to remember 4 minutes worth of lyrics? Cause that's what I'm doing in this video.
Yeah.
Like rather like, and of course trying to do the best I can, but it's like, it's more about that. I'm trying to remember the material because there's so much of it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, okay.
There's
Tara,
so much here. I
there's
like
so
don't
much
want to
here.
just say problems and not give like
I know, and not give the
the
upside,
hope
the
because there
hope.
is like
Yes,
and things do
yes.
work out in this industry. And like when things are good, they're so good. Because
They
like
are.
that's why we do it. Like there's like
Right.
irreplaceable feelings. Even
Yes.
though it does feel a little bit, my friend always says it feels like the lottery right now to get a show. Like
Yes,
it
right. It does.
it
It
does.
does feel like the
It does feel
lottery.
like the lottery. It does feel like winning, which is awesome because there is something like you feel so seen when you do get handed something and you've worked
Mhm.
hard and like every no one will know how many thankless things you've done to
Done.
like get
Yes.
to this spot, and there is something that
Yes.
you could acknowledge for yourself. But I
Exactly.
think the whole part of this is to say like what I think I would wish for a younger Tara and a younger Ayana is to
Yeah.
have like someone or not someone, not like a fairy godmother to come in or anything like that, but
Yeah.
like knowledge in like the self-worth end of all of this, the
Mhm.
financial care and like just some
Mhm.
awareness in all of that, and the fact that like you can be ands and that's also
Yes.
going to serve you. The
Yes.
ands will serve you. Yeah, like I would want the younger versions of ourselves to see their worth outside of their working
Mhm.
actor
Mhm.
status,
Yeah.
see the world as a big, beautiful playground. Like there's other interests you can nourish, there's other things you can do, and it
Mhm.
doesn't devalue. And I really do feel this, and this might be part of my faith um, in I don't even know like the universe in humanity. I really feel like I have no expiration date, like, with my dreams. Like,
Yeah.
that is one thing I feel very confident about, and I really much own, like, I'm a timeless bloomer, I'm a late bloomer, but, like, what does that even mean? That's why it kind of removes the late term. I'm like, I'm just blooming at my own time. Yes, like, some of these
Yes.
milestones that I'd still like, I would like to have my Broadway debut. I'm 36, and I know that's not as common to hear someone post the age of 30 making their Broadway debut, and we sometimes only focus or, like, societal lens focuses
Mm.
on the young, right?
Mhm.
But I'm like, I would love to be 40 and make my Broadway debut. Like, I'm fine with that. If that's my path, that's my path.
Yeah.
Um, so I think the removal of the expiration dates, the you can do lots of things and also take care of yourself and also like not do anything at all sometimes. Like
Mhm.
move when you're meant to move and also rest when you're meant to rest.
Yeah.
Rest, like feeling guilty for rest used to be a whole part of my 20s that I had to like really, look into.
Mhm.
And I'm glad I do feel like I value rest so much more, just time away and like days that have nothing to do but like me like enjoying myself with friends, right? Like
Yeah.
I used to never do that.
Yeah.
I never did it.
Yeah.
Work,
Well,
work, work, go, go,
we're
go.
because it's part of grind culture.
Yeah.
We've been indoctrinated into it that your value is in what you produce. Your value is in how much work you do. And that's not
Right.
true. Your value is in the fact that you're a human. Your value is in your humanity. Like no, you're only working because again, we mentioned this earlier. We're in a system that was made up. This currency was made up. That's why you're
Yeah.
working. Like that has your value should not be attached to that, but we are indoctrinated into that, Tara. And
Yeah.
so it then gets compounded with the fact that we're in an industry, particularly musical theater, that is based off of someone saying yes to you, someone else saying yes
Yes.
to you outside of yourself. So
Yes.
then why wouldn't you place your value on that? Like if you have to keep doing that repeatedly, you're
Right.
just like, oh, well, if I'm not booking, then am I not worth it? Am I not, am I not good? Am I not like, but it's just, there's so many factors. There's so many actors. There's, you know, the selection of people, like you said, like, I'm not going to do that now. So you can find somebody else, but also you shouldn't be able to find somebody else because no, nobody
And
should do a 10-show week.
and I also will say, like, since I've like started to turn down like jobs that, are not at a living wage that I can take at this moment,
Mm-hmm.
I'm up against people who have Broadway credits, who
Mm-hmm.
have like a different reputation than me. And I know that that matters to people
Mm-hmm.
hiring. Like, so there's that. Like, there's
Yeah.
also that end of it too. Like, breaking through right now is also like, I don't even know what that means. Like, again, it's another term we use, like making it, breaking through, all whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But like getting to the Broadway debut sometimes feels so close and then sometimes so far away that like
Yes.
fluctuates.
Yeah.
But like, I think we're proving this too. Like, we both have other passions, you and I,
Mm-hmm.
and we've made space for them. And also, yes, doing your own work can be, I sometimes get infuriated when I hear like acting teachers be like, just make your own work because it's like, that's really like a lovely thing to say. And I get the value. And it is, it's gratifying. But the money, again, like the things that have to go into this to make it
Mm-hmm.
happen is hard. And a lot of people
Yes.
are not meant to be like leading a project. They want to be a team player rather than lead a project. So that's a
Yeah.
tricky thing as
Yeah.
well. So, but with that being said, I'm like, if you can remove a timeline,
Mm.
remove perfections,
Mm.
that's the big
Mm.
thing.
Yeah.
And if there is something that you want to make for yourself, take your time, go with whatever resources you have,
Mm-hmm.
and jump from there. It does not need to be perfect, but
Mm-hmm.
it just needs to be yours and something that you have. Like, we don't get a lot of control as actors auditioning for other people's projects.
Yeah.
It's in your control. So you get to call the shots. Like anytime my podcast co-host and I have like something happen, we're like, it's our podcast. We make the rules.
Right.
Like, we get to say this or get to say that. We are the ones choosing that. And there is something really great about that.
Mm-hmm.
And also putting yourself to the test as a leader because it is hard to lead. It's hard. Like, it's hard for, I think, how does a casting director look at a breakdown and go, okay, let's call in everyone we can think of? Like, that is
Yes.
that's crazy. And
It
like,
is.
try to fill like how many ever time slots they're getting and trying to be fair about it. Like, that
Mm-hmm.
is a crazy ask.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It
I
is.
once heard like for a regional project that was a pretty like popular regional project that I was
Mm-hmm.
even up for, that they had over 2,000 tapes submitted for regional
What?
theater. This isn't Broadway.
Wow.
Who's watching all of that? Like, that's
Right.
there's crazy things like this industry. I think I also bow down to the leaders as much as I also want to hold the leaders accountable. I do think it's like
Mm-hmm.
a crazy thing to step up and try to, I think it's the hardest thing is to make art. Like, seeing a musical right now, that whenever I go, I'm like, I go into that space and I go, y'all did it. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like proud of whatever comes out on that stage. I've become so less critical,
Yeah.
so less critical. As I
Ooh.
grow older, my
Yeah.
criticism actually fades, which I actually am grateful for. It's like
Yeah.
usually it's the other way around. I think the jadedness comes
Just
in.
comes. Yeah.
But I'm like, you know what? It takes so much to get people on stage to be paying the people behind the scenes. Like, it takes so much to get to this point. I don't even know how it happens sometimes. It feels like magic because you're seeing, like, the show go up on its feet. But like, this
Mm-hmm.
show has maybe been in the works for 10 plus years. And
Yes.
you're not seeing the late night voice memos, like
But-
of the composer singing to someone to be like, does this work? We're not seeing
right.
any of that.
Right. I mean,
But
yes.
it just all takes time. So like, find whatever that is that you want to have in your control and just don't worry about it being an Instagram success and like right this second, the follower count going up. Just
Ugh.
do your thing, share when you feel like sharing, and take the breaks when you feel like taking breaks, and do not feel guilty about the breaks you take.
Ooh. Amen.
Easier said than
Amen.
done, but that's like what I try to live by.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I thoroughly understand what you're saying. And I mean, it's all of it. Take breaks when you need it and not feel guilty. but also to like know that things take time. And I think, again, because social media wasn't that big when we
I'm
were in
grateful.
school and graduated, same, even growing up,
Grateful.
like growing
So
up, it
grateful it
wasn't,
wasn't a thing.
we're that
So
generation who
grateful.
still played outside. Like
Yes.
Facebook wasn't, it was my freshman year of college that Facebook
Yes,
came
college.
around.
That's when I joined any of this.
So like,
Yes.
I'm so thankful, but it's one of those like things take time. And I know that this, social media has kind of diverted people into thinking,
Just
oh no, it's
confused us. Yeah.
Instagram success. And it's like, ooh, no, 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 no. But that's also not gonna last. Like, yeah, you may be Instagram famous for about 15 minutes and then people move on because people's attention spans have even gotten even
I've got
shorter. And so it's like, well, yeah, developing your own work, that could take actual years. Like I just saw a show. I don't know if it'll be open by the time this airs, but it's called Gun and Powder at Paper Mill
Oh
Playhouse.
yes.
It was
Yes.
incredible. And talking to the writer, she said it took 10 years to get to this point right now.
Yeah. Paper
10
Mill was also the regional theater I
years.
was talking about with the
Okay.
2000 tapes. That was the
Oh,
regional theater.
jeez Louise.
But yeah, oh my gosh,
Yeah. 10
10
years.
years to get to a regional premiere of the musical.
Bingo. And I remember her saying they wrote over 100 songs, her and the composer. Like, this stuff takes so much time. Like, making art takes so much time. But and I had this in my head, what I was going to touch upon was that we don't get paid for that time. Like,
And there's something
athletes
that
get
is hard. Yes,
hard.
athletes get paid.
Athletes get paid to train. They get paid to wake up and train and make sure their bodies are ready for the game. We don't wake up and get paid to train to make sure that my body is ready for the game. Like we don't
My
get
husband,
paid for that.
sorry.
Hey, husband.
He's just going to get his charger because I've been holding this room hostage for
Oh.
the whole morning. Love you.
Yes, but we don't get paid to do the in-between work, that's where, I mean, full circle is what we've been talking
100.
about. This is the hardest part. We don't get paid for the in-between work. We get paid to be on the stage, but we don't get paid to get up and work on our craft and train and nutrition, like you said, and wellness and literally take care of our instrument like athletes do. And so it's like, well, then how do you continue to pursue it? And I think it is, becoming a multi-hyphenate, which I think was looked down upon because it's like, well, you're not being serious about being an actor if you're doing other things. And I'm like, that's crap. But living your life and like finding other things that bring you joy and money, because the reality is, yes, we've been indoctrinated in it, but we also live in it. Like you gotta pay rent, you gotta buy groceries. So I guess, yes, you have to make money.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I concur. Yeah, this is what you just said is the challenge of it. And
Mhm.
it'll just change. Like it's going to
Yeah.
change. There's going to be moments where you're like, I can do this right now. Like I'm in a mindset. I just want to get seen for things. I want to be in the room, ride it, then go with that. Right. Like if
Yes.
that's feeling true for you, go for it. Pound
Yes.
away. Cause
Hmm.
sometimes I'm in that place. Like we have to think of ourselves, especially us female identifying beings. We have to think of ourselves as like seasonal cycle
Hmm.
humans, right? Like we have
Yeah.
our spring seasons where we're like, let's go. And you
Yeah.
know what's crazy to me? I've
Uh-huh.
always said this too. Winter is when audition season is huge in the city. Winter. But like,
You're
and so
right.
we're trying to be spring season and winter always too, like us as like humans. We're trying to bring in light and joy into these rooms that sometimes are often cold, and because the people behind the table are tired. And
Yeah.
like you can't ever rely on the people behind the table to have energy that you need. And I'm
Mm-mm.
someone who like I do better when, there's like a nice connection, like I settle in, all that stuff. But sometimes it doesn't happen. So you're having to bring in this like spring energy into like a winter chill, right? So there's
Wow.
that part of it too, like the juxtapositions you can meet. But that's also just true to your body. Like you're going to have
Yeah.
those moments where you're like, I'm in a winter, I'm feeling sad. There's other parts of my life I want to take care of right now. Like
Hmm.
maybe this is the time I get a therapist, and maybe I'll do the therapist right now instead of a voice lesson.
Yeah.
It's okay. If that's what's feeling true, you got to do it, right? Like, and
Yeah.
then summers, you're living it up, whatever. Like, you're like, you know what? I'm going on my vacations. I'm doing my things. Like, you got to do
Right.
the things that feel true to you and just know the season cycle. But
Hmm.
not every I think it's impossible to expect that you're going at this career all the time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's, I think, the biggest thing that I can say to myself, my younger self,
Mhm.
anyone listening to this who's like pursuing any career in the arts is just you gotta listen to yourself. No one has, like, I know we're talking about this as like if to find a prescription for how to make this work, but
Right.
there is none. And
Mhm.
that's the beauty of it. Cause literally, like, your life can change tomorrow. Like we were saying, like, you can get
Mhm.
that call that like you're in the company of something that is coming to Broadway.
Yeah.
That it could literally happen. Or you're just, it hasn't happened yet. It's like it's
Mhm.
one or the other. But yeah,
Mhm.
like, I just think there is no way to do this. So you just got to find your way to make it work
Yeah.
in the moment,
In the
when
ooh,
right now, what is making sense right now, and that's it. Don't get too ahead.
yeah.
Everything will shift
Yeah.
as it does as you get older, as you want different things. But
Mhm.
ask yourself, what do I want right now? Do I really want to be up every morning and auditioning? If that is a hard yes, you go for it.
Right.
Listen to it. Then that means something's going to probably
Right.
happen with that. Because if your body is saying yes, your body
Mhm.
knows. I think the body knows,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. It does. It does. Listen, I mean, listening to yourself, like, the body does know, and listening to your intuition and just go like you said, going with it and being okay with the different seasons. Like, when you said that, I was like, I didn't even realize, yeah, audition season in New York is during the
One of the
winter.
hardest times to be in existence here. Also, if you are a server in the city, that's a time when there's cuts like crazy
Yeah.
usually, because everything just like catering is not
Yep.
huge in the winter. Like a
Mhm.
lot of the gigs that we also rely on disappear.
Yes.
And it's like,
Yes.
oh my, like, so there's double edge, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and we're
Yeah.
being asked to be this bubbly, sunshiny thing.
That walk yeah. Yeah.
Honestly, in the wintertime, I opt, like I said my story, I opt for like a little more mental support than I
Mhm.
I opt for technical
Mm,
support
fair.
because I need it in the wintertime.
Yeah. Yeah. I yeah. Uh, yes. But Tara, thank you for also just I'm gonna wrap it up with this last point
Yeah,
of,
yeah.
like, that there's no prescription to this, and I
None.
think really settling into that, and I know that that's a hard pill to swallow. I mean, just in life, there's no prescription to it, right? But
For anybody,
especially
really.
for
Yes.
anybody, for
Yes.
anybody. But there's no prescription for, pursuing your career and also trying to balance, like, okay, if this is some of the things that I have to go through in this career, how do I also balance, like, the things that are other things that are important to me, like my family, my friends, my social life, my health and well-being, and also, oh, I also have to make money. And so it's like there's no prescription for it. But I'm also a firm believer of, like, what's meant for you is meant for you. And so
I love that.
trying to figure out how to stay on your path so you can get to what's meant for you. And it's not saying that your path's going to be easy or that, every day will be sunshine, but it's like, how do you take those sunshine moments and, like, okay, I can keep going. But also, really, what this even the conversation is about pivoting. Okay,
Mhm.
my path requires me right now to change. Doesn't matter what anybody else is doing. I have to make a change. And that's hard sometimes,
That's so
especially
hard.
when you're watching other people and you're like, but I do want to be in a show, but I do want, but also, like, knowing, okay, what's meant for me is meant for me. I have to stay on my path. And if my body is telling me that I need to do something right now, then I got to do it. And it's hard. Yes, as I'm speaking on this microphone, I'm acknowledging that it's hard, but you can do
Yeah.
it.
And the struggle of it, like, that's how we connect often, like, not to
Mhm.
get into like complain culture and all that
Mhm.
stuff, but like, everyone has gone through something,
Yes.
like, and
Yeah.
not even just in this industry, but those are the stories that make us, like, who we
Yeah.
are in those struggles of it all really show
Yeah.
us, like, where we're headed at the end of the day. So also the taking the pride in the struggle is part of it too.
Mhm.
Like, I feel that. Like, I feel that for the bumps I've experienced being some of the best teachers I've ever had. Like, it
Yeah.
doesn't happen in the moment. You need like some
Yeah.
time usually away from it and then it'll hit
Uh-huh.
you.
Mhm.
That's the beauty of it all too. Like, this whole career is not predictable. You can't predict it. What you're saying, what I heard you saying is that, like, it's not like we go to school, you're going to go intern here, you'll work there. That's not how this works.
Nope. Nope.
Just not how it works. Um And there's something that I think is so beautiful about you not knowing what's coming next. And if you can just like lean into the unknown as like this mystery novel that's going to reveal itself over time, that's exciting too.
Yeah.
Your
Yeah.
best chapters are to come. I believe that for both of us right now and for whoever is listening to this.
Oh, agreed. Agreed. Tara, thank you so much for sharing.
Yes, thank
Thank
you. This like
you.
amped me up to like go after the things I want to go after and say no to the things that I'm like, no, not serving right now.
Right. Absolutely. Before I let you go, please tell everybody where they can find you out here on the internet.
On the internet streets,
Yep.
I am at Tara Tagliaferro, my last AOL screen name on
Yes.
Instagram.
Yes.
That is correct. And on my podcast, I'm mostly active over there. Like I'm kind of a silent social person these days, like for myself, but
Yeah.
active for my podcast, Down the Yellow Brick Pod. If you like The Wizard of Oz, we use Oz, my co-host and I, as a way to just like talk about deeper things. Like we find all the metaphors and have really cool conversations, and also do some like history deep dives with all the different properties and reimaginations of the original text, which is so much fun. So find me there.
Oh, love it. All right, y'all. It's going to be put in the show notes so you can easily click on that
Thank
and
you.
find Tara. And I must say to you that I acknowledge you, I celebrate you, and I uplift you.
Right back at you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Tara.
You're welcome. Thank you, listeners.
This podcast is produced by Ayana Major Bay. Editor is Kieran Niement. Theme song lyrics written by Ayana Major Bay and Melissa Victor, with performance by Ayana Major Bay. Please make sure to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast wherever you listen to podcasts.
Part of the Boundless Audio Podcast Network.